As Ohio State returns to the field, their mission is to remind everyone they're still one of the best teams in the country.
You are Locked On Buckeyes, your daily podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in, Buckeye fans, to your feel-good Friday edition of Locked On Buckeyes, your daily Ohio State podcast, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Jay Stevens, also the host of the Jay Stevens Podcast, and today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet, and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Jeremiah Smith, Chris Carter, Dylan Raiola, they all find themselves in today's show, as well as Ohio State's entire team, as the Buckeyes are set to return to the field tomorrow. And their mission is to remind everyone they're still one of the best teams in the country. And I think that's going to be very clear from Jump Street. You don't spend time off like Ohio State does and with the coaches they have without working on fixing some of the issues the team has. And I say issues, which is plural, because Ohio State is not perfect and they don't just have one issue. You can even look at the injuries and say that's an issue, but that's one thing that really wasn't something we said was an issue when we looked at the film. When we looked at the film, a lot of stuff was defensive. Some stuff was on the offensive side of the ball. Some things are on the special teams. There are issues in all three phases of the game. And Ryan Day is one guy right now that is being very specific and being very open about things that are happening, spending more time in the defensive coaches and the defensive meeting rooms, trying to figure things out, taking his own accountability and saying that one was on him. And all the players are thinking, man, if our coach is saying that, and he didn't even play in the game, he was just coaching us up all night long. Man, we got to go hard for him, man. We got to want to run through a brick wall for this guy because he's taking one for the team. He's literally telling us, hey, I didn't play a snap, but that was on me. That's huge. And when your mission is to remind everybody you're still one of the best teams in the country, and you see your coach take accountability after a loss like that, after a game like that, you're going to want to show everyone that not only do you ride for your coach, but also this team is good, man. I think what gets lost a little bit over the past couple weeks is how good this Ohio State team is. From Will Howard to the running backs to the offensive line that has drastically improved to the guys on defense, this team is really good. I mean, there's really aren't many flaws that we're talking about at Ohio State. Some of them are of sense of deja vu because they've been here for a couple or maybe 3 years. But outside of that, this team is still really, really good. And just think for a little bit. Use your imagination. Think about what it will be tomorrow if we see Ohio State work all game long and show that they have fixed some of the issues that they've had. Well, Ryan Day said when it comes to fixing some things defensively, but I'm going to add to it and say fixing things across the board, the proof will be in the pudding. That's a line that Ryan Day used earlier this week. And I believe that. But I'm going to say it's all across the board. Issues offensively. Why was it such a struggle to run in the second half? Was it because of the injuries? Was it because of Oregon? Not sure. However, that was the only time all year where Ohio State's rush numbers were poor. I mean, bad. I mean, not acceptable. Well, what do you have to do tomorrow to make sure they're acceptable numbers, that the Buckeyes are being very productive when running the ball? Change some things up. Now, on offense, he had a new offensive lineman who's a full-time starter now, assuming that he keeps that role over the next few weeks. And Zen Michalski, yeah, that's one guy there. At right guard, will they still swing that thing and rotate that thing like they do at D-tackle? I don't know. Speaking of rotations, does Ohio State continue to rotate at D-tackle and have guys that shouldn't be on the field be on the field? I don't know. Linebackers, Arvell Reese didn't play that much a couple weeks ago. Will he play more? I think he should. Absolutely. Especially when Ohio State's expected to blow out Nebraska. That's a hint on my score prediction. I'll unveil that later in the show. But Ohio State right now, with the mindset that they have, with the coaches they have, with the opportunity they have to still win the conference, to still beat Michigan, and still win the Natty, you got to show everybody right now that you're still for real. Because you don't want to go out here on Saturday afternoon, on homecoming weekend, when they're honoring the 2014 national championship team, and you don't want to go out there and wet the bed. You can still win the game, but still not look like it's a Buckeye brand of football. And we're going to come on here after the show tomorrow on the postcast or on Monday and Tuesday of next week and kind of voice how frustrated and confused we are about how Ohio State is playing. It may be a sense of deja vu, or it may be a sense of, I don't want to come on here and be a little doom and gloom guy. But there's a time and a place to kind of express that level of emotion when things aren't going right. And I don't want to do that, and I don't think I will. You still got Will Howard. Speaking of Will, you still got Will Howard. That wasn't a transition I expected, but kind of rolled right into it. Number 18 is getting the job done. Number 18 has showed everybody he is a guy to lead the offense this year. He has showed improvement in the areas he needed to show improvement in. Yeah, the deep ball has not been a big factor in the offense, but it doesn't need to be, so it doesn't really matter to me. He is a guy that will run more as the Buckeyes plan to run him more as he get deeper into the Big Ten slate of games, which is great for him, great for the offense. But when you got Judkins and Henderson, you got all these guys on offense, they make Will Howard's job easier. All Will Howard has to do is manage the game. He doesn't need to go out there and throw for 450 or have 5 passing touchdowns. He doesn't need to do that. Simply manage the game and take what the defense gives you. And if that's his mindset tomorrow, to simply take what the defense gives him, we may be looking at Will Howard having one of them games that we talk about, that we remember, because he was just so locked in, so dialed in, that Nebraska had no answer. Nebraska wasn't able to overcome the formula that Ohio State threw at them all game long. So when it comes to number 18, I believe in him, and I didn't think I would be saying that at this point in the year, but he has shown me enough on film. He has shown me enough this year to get my full 100% belief. Do I have the same belief in the defense? Yes and no. It comes in pockets. I believe Ohio State's defense can improve. Have I seen enough to believe that the coaches will put guys in the right spots, will make the right alterations, it will be a little bit more multiple on defense, and will blitz guys consistently to get pressure on the quarterback? Do I still have belief, 100% believe, that they would do that all the time? No, I don't. I want to say yes, but I don't. Here's where things can change. If Ohio State opens up tomorrow and kind of overcorrects things, that I heard Stephen Means of Cleveland.com on the video on the YouTube that they put out before the game tomorrow, and said that Ohio State might overcorrect things, and he made a bold prediction about how many sacks Ohio State might have tomorrow. I'm not here to do that, but I will say this. If Ohio State does overcorrect things when it comes to getting pressure on the quarterback, Dylan Raiola will be running for his life. Now, the thing is, you can't overcorrect like crazy because you might leave holes other places. It's kind of a give and take a little bit, but I think Ohio State's athletic enough. They're good enough. They have the players that are so skilled and have the skill set to kind of change some things up, even adjust on the fly, as I've heard some great things about Caleb Downs, even when he was in high school, about how quick he could digest things that a coach was giving him and put them into practice on the field. Same thing goes. If Downs can do it, he's also going to teach to others. And this defense is going to be so much fun to watch tomorrow. The team is going to be fun to watch tomorrow on Big Fox with Big Noon in town. Urban's in town. It's going to be a fun day of Buckeye football. And I can't wait to see this team really show everybody that when Ryan Day says the proof will be in the pudding, that the proof that we see is Buckeyes playing a great Buckeye brand of football. In a way for Ohio State to play a Buckeye brand of football tomorrow and to win this game, they must key and focus on Dylan Raiola and do one thing specifically. We'll talk about that next. This episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the best place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in award winnings, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 100 times your cash. Run your game all season long on Prize Picks. You can now win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. Prize Picks is the best way to get action on sports in over 30 states, including California, Florida, Georgia, and Texas. Prize Picks is the only real money daily fantasy sports platform with an injury insurance policy. so your lineups stay in play even if one of your players gets injured. If your player leaves in the first half and doesn't return, Prize Picks keeps your lineup live. Download the app today and use code LOCKEDONCollege to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Once again, download the Prize Picks app and use code LOCKEDONCollege to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. Thank you for making Locked On Buckeyes your first listen every day. There's a guy over there in Nebraska that used to be an Ohio State commit that decided that Ohio State was not the right place for him to play football. He stuck to the family ties. His name is Dylan Raiola. And this talented quarterback is the starting quarterback for Nebraska, the true freshman that he is. And when I think about him being a true freshman and what Ohio State's keys to the game are tomorrow, it kind of goes into something Ohio State needs to do no matter what, with a little bit extra added to it. But the first key to the game tomorrow is simply blitz Raiola. And also got to give a quick shout out. The people behind the scenes at Locked On that put these graphics together, oh my gosh, so crystal clear. You can easily see what the words are. Like, even the things that seem so simple, you look at some shows and the guys behind the scenes don't get it right. I just got to give a shout out to those people at the production team for helping us out with the shows here with these graphics. They look great. But first, the first key to victory is simply blitz Raiola. But one thing with Dylan Raiola, when it comes to him versus man-to-man, I believe he's about a 70% passer, maybe 75% passer, which is great. Great for anybody. If you're a true freshman, that's even better. But when you throw in zone coverage, he's a 35% passer. You see the drop-off there? You see how drastic things are? So when I say add to it, yes, the blitz Raiola is the first thing. It's the main thing, and it has to happen no matter what. I mean, if you're anybody out there watching Ohio State this year over the past few years, you realize the pass rush is not what it needs to be. Since Chase Young, there have been multiple defensive coordinators, and the guys after Chase Young have not figured out a way for Ohio State to consistently get a pass rush, which is kind of embarrassing. I mean, I'm not trying to just be negative here, but it's really embarrassing that right now when it comes to Ohio State, we're talking about a team that doesn't get a consistent pass rush. You walk to any high school, if you walk around, that block O on your chest means something. When a coach walks into a school, they have a certain level of credibility because of where they're coming from. So you believe that Ohio State shouldn't have any issues recruiting guys that can rush the passer. But what we have seen over the past few years, some of the best in the recruiting cycles have chosen other places. Mateo Uiagalelei chose somewhere else. Damon Wilson chose somewhere else. Keon Keeley chose somewhere else. I mean, you're going to win some, you're going to lose some. But currently right now, with the way Ohio State's losing them, it's really sad and embarrassing that Ohio State's not winning these battles, not winning the battles in recruiting, but also not developing guys. I mean, I'm just confused because we expect a certain level of play at Ohio State. And when it comes to the pass rush part of the game, it's not there consistently. But what can be there consistently is a consistent pass rush. Now, will it be a 4-man rush? Will it be a 3-man rush? Occasionally, but I don't think that should be the consistent thing that Ohio State does. Blitz the quarterback. I think back to remember the Titans when Coach Yost, I think it was in a state championship game or later in the movie. And crucial moment, there was a timeout, and he came back over there, and that old boy said, "You blitz all night." Now, I'm not trying to get too crazy, but man, if I said it like he did in that movie, man, I would have been so hyped up. And I don't know if I still do. I used to know every line in that movie. Of course, I came out when I was in middle school, maybe elementary school. Forget exactly when it came out. But that movie it's a classic, still my favorite movie of all time. Not just sports movie, but favorite movie of all time. But he said you blitz all night. And I think Ryan Day and Jim Knowles got to realize, man, you blitz all night. You blitz, you blitz, you blitz. Now, you can't blitz so much that your coverage is jeopardized and you're giving up big plays there. But you got to figure it out. Where can the blitz come from? Who is the blitzer? And how often can that guy come in? Like, figure out, have a great feel for the game, have the feel for the game be so great that you realize this look, that blitz. This look, blitz number 2. This look, you get blitz AB. That look, you get ZY. This look, you get Nike. Why? Because all of a sudden, when you figure out the looks that the team is showing you and you have a counter for it, but we're going to be sitting here on Saturday afternoon saying, hey, hats off. Hats off. But that's if they do it. And I say if, capital I, capital F. Because even if they do it once or twice, I don't know if it'll be consistent. We saw a confusing game plan the last time the Buckeyes were on the field. Please, just don't provide a confusing game plan tomorrow as well. Number 2 for our keys to victory, protect Zen. Now, I could have added to it and said Zen Michalski, but I wanted to keep the words very, very short on the graphic there. Protect Zen. That's Zen Michalski. And you have a new guy starting a left tackle with Josh Simmons being out. And let's not forget, even though Zen Michalski came in and stepped up and played very well in a backup role the last time he was on the field, one thing you have to remember is that the last time he was on the field, teams are now game planning for him. They know he is a weakest link. They're going to try to confuse him. Donovan Jackson, Seth McLaughlin, G. Scott Jr., Bennett Christian, Travion Henderson, and Quinshawn Judkins need to help this young man. I could say, well, Howard, but you also got receivers as well. But the first 4 that I got, all 4 of them are going to play. Jelani Thurman, not really sure what his role is going to be in tomorrow's game. Patrick Gurd needs to play. Needs to play every week. And I have been hitting this drum a whole lot more than normal. But play him. He is very productive when he's out there. He's a guy that maybe have played 10 snaps. Maybe. But if he's played 10, he's been productive in every single one because he's just that kind of guy, man. Now, he's playing a Mitch Rossi role. Not as good as Mitch Rossi, but Patrick Gurd gets the job done. And if I am Zen Michalski, one thing that would help me in this game, if I'm the slot receiver and I'm in a little bit tighter, chip that defensive end or chip the guy on the end of the line of scrimmage. Give your boy Zen Michalski some help. Protect him. Help him out. Go to the sidelines. Hey, Zen, you did great here. Here's how you can do better. Zen, you kind of missed it here. Here's how you can get better. Hold him accountable if you're one of his teammates. Hold him accountable if you're one of the coaches. But also protect him and help that boy out. Because on that day, especially when you're honoring one of the last team, not one of, the last team to win a national championship at Ohio State, you already know it's going to be a little bit difficult. You already know you're going to be nervous. Protect Zen, man. You got to protect him. Number 3, last but not least, pound the rock. This goes to something that Nebraska did in the 2 games they lost against ranked opponents, which were the 2 worst games that the Cornhusker rush defense had this season. Pound the rock, man. I said it earlier, Illinois' running backs aren't as good as Ohio State's. Indiana's running backs aren't as good as Ohio State's. But one thing you find in this game, the first time Nebraska allowed a rushing touchdown was a week ago against Indiana, which is the best team Nebraska has played all year. They allowed 5. They also allowed Indiana to have 6.5 yards of carry. They also gave up 215 rushing yards a week ago. Now, if you hear that number, you say IU had 5 touchdowns on the ground and 215. Does Ohio State need to match their numbers? Absolutely not. I'll tell you why later on in the show. But if you pound the rock, it's going to make Will Howard's job easier. And it's actually going to drastically confuse the defense. Because if they realize that they open up this game like they opened up last game and they can't stop the run, turn out the lights, baby. This party's going to be over very quickly because Nebraska, if they struggle to stop the run, they're also going to struggle to stop with the receivers outside. And one of them is number 4, one's number 2, one's number 17. And I say it that way because, well, all them boys are good. And if Nebraska can't stop the run, those guys on the outside are probably going to get loose and do it all night long. One thing that should happen all night long is Ryan Day not only understanding the assignment, but doing what is needed to show he understands the assignment. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Hey, NFL fans, you can start to see what the big return on FanDuel It's America's #1 sports book. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. Once again, you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. And maybe you're someone that is looking to put some money on Ohio State's game tomorrow. Ohio State is currently 25.5-point favorites over Nebraska. The over-under is set at 48.5. I am leading with the over, and I'll explain why later on in the show. And I'll probably go with the over Ohio State minus 25.5 and the over with the over-under total points scored because, well, I just think this game is going to be all Ohio State all night long, and Nebraska won't have an answer. All the action goes down on the FanDuel Sportsbook app and at FanDuel.com. Thank you for making Locked On Buckeyes your first listen every day. Ryan Day is in a very interesting spot. I have used a phrase, a contract year, and we're talking about with NBA or NFL players, how when they're in a contract year, they really show they're trying to get the bag, trying to get that money and inflate their bank account. Well, Ryan Day's not in a contract year, but he is in a very interesting spot. When you're 6 under Ryan Day, and some of the same issues Ryan Day's had over the past couple years are still here this year. Offense is better, O-line is better, but a lot of it goes back to the defense. Why has the defense not gotten better? What is Ryan Day going to do to help the defense get better? And Ryan Day right now is a coach that he understands what he needs to do. He knows the assignment, but Ryan Day has to put the action into making sure everybody is on the same page. You don't have coaches on different pages on the same side of the ball or not on the same side of the ball. It don't matter. You got to make sure if you're Ryan Day that you are doing everything you can so that all three phases of the game are getting the job done. And if they don't, everything falls back on you. Offensively, you're not the OC no more. Defensively, you have a you have a head coach of the defense. Special teams, you divided up those responsibilities among the coaches, but you are still responsible for all of it. Which is why I think Ryan Day said this week multiple times that he is unhappy. Because not only is he unhappy because of the outcome and the results right now, but some of this stuff was supposed to be fixed during the offseason, and it hasn't been fixed. So I'm looking for Ryan Day tomorrow. I'm not saying he needs to be as emotional or as expressive as he was against Georgia a couple years ago in the Peach Bowl. But what I am saying is Ryan Day has to kind of just control everything. I mean, college football coaches are already a little cuckoo, if you want to put it that way, anyway. And Ryan Day falls into that description because he is a little cuckoo at times. But Ryan Day, put the players in the right positions. You believe the players in the right positions. I still question if that's true. I still question if you, not so much with the starters, but sometimes you got backup on the field that should not be on the field. And I think it's been a theme at Ohio State, not just this year, but over the past few years under Ryan Day's watch. So figure out the rotations, figure out what's working on offense and defense, adjust on the fly, and realize if you got to take something over, take it over. I mean, we saw Urban Meyer previously when he was at Ohio State. He took over play calling at times because the play callers weren't getting the job done. I'm not trying to call names because I forget the year and things like that, but the whole co-OC thing that Urban Meyer had, I wasn't a fan of, and sometimes that led to confusion. Well, Ryan Day, if there's confusion, he has to figure it out, has to solve it, has to kill it really quickly so that the team can do exactly what the team wants to do, which is to win. And for Ohio State to win tomorrow, there's one guy I'm watching, number 4 on the team. You know him by Jeremiah Smith. Some call him JJ. And he is very, 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 very close to saying, move over, Chris Carter. I own these records now. Jeremiah Smith needs 10 catches, 96 receiving yards, and 3 receiving touchdowns to break Chris Carter's Ohio State freshman receiving records. And all of that can happen tomorrow. I wouldn't be shocked if it happened tomorrow because Jeremiah Smith is that good. And as he saw a week ago when Nebraska played IU, one thing Curtis Work did before he went out with an injury, his ball placement was on point and Nebraska's defensive backs were a half second or a full second too late, maybe an arm's length too far away. And yet Omar Cooper Jr. and Elijah Surratt and a couple of the other receivers at Indiana making some really good catches. One, it's a credit to Curtis Warwick, their quarterback. It's two, credit to the receivers for doing exactly what they're supposed to do. But three, Nebraska's corners, they'll allow you to catch some balls. Now, you got to be a dude. Like Elijah Surratt's a dude. Omar Cooper Jr., saw the kid in high school. He is a good player. He makes plays. So when you got Jeremiah Smith on the verge of breaking these records, you want to do something like this in front of the last team to win the national championship at Ohio State will be very, very memorable. Then when you add in that it's homecoming weekend, that's just another incentive to break it this weekend. Now, I don't have Jeremiah Smith's numbers in front of me. I think he's eclipsed a 100 receiving yards mark this year. I don't believe he's had double-digit catches, and I don't believe he's had 3 receiving touchdowns in a game. So with all of that in mind, Jeremiah Smith can do it. I mean, 100%, absolutely, no questions asked. It can happen tomorrow. Do I think Will Howard will have to force feed him at times? Maybe. But what's wrong with force feeding a guy who is, I won't say unstoppable, because you can hold him down and not allow him to catch the ball because you're holding him or you pass interference all game long. But, I mean, one guy said if Jeremiah Smith came out right now, he would potentially be a first-round pick in this year's NFL draft as a true freshman. Now, the rule has not changed. You still had to be out of high school for 3 years before entering the NFL draft. So we believe and we hope, cross fingers, that Jeremiah Smith does not transfer and stays at Ohio State for 2 more years. And if that's the case, this young man might very well own every receiving record at Ohio State because he's that good. He's that dude. I've never seen a freshman receiver ever like this. And there's been some great ones. I was not watching college football. I was alive, but I was not watching college football when Randy Moss was playing at Marshall. So that's one thing. Chris Carter, even older than that, and I wasn't even alive at that time when Chris Carter was doing his thing in the scarlet and gray back in the mid-'80s. So Jeremiah Smith, I need to go to the source, something, and start looking up some words to describe him a little bit differently. Because when I just say unreal or he's just insane or the best receiver I've ever seen at this age, that says a lot. But then when you watch him play the football, it's different because it's better. It's way better than anybody thought he could be. Now, those that know him say that they expected this. Brian Smith, recruiting analyst at Locked On, who knows Jeremiah Smith personally, before the season, his numbers that he predicted for Jeremiah Smith to have at the end of the regular season were the numbers that would break Chris Carter's record. Part of it is the game's different. You're passing more now than you were in that time when Chris Carter played. But also, he's just that dude. He came in and easily said, I'm the best receiver on the team right now with this play. He's not going out here talking like a Keyshawn Johnson or talking like a Randy Moss. He's not, or a T.O. He's not doing that with his teammates and stuff like that. But he is saying, I came in and my players showed everybody I am the best receiver on the team. And when I am the best receiver on the team, I'm going to make some amazing catches. I'm going to make routine stuff look somewhat easy because I am that good. And for Jeremiah Smith, if this young man breaks Chris Carter's records tomorrow, man, we're going to be clapping it up. Twitter's going to go crazy. People are going to remember that game because of how good he is, the day it is, and because it happened so quickly. In 7 games, 7, he might eclipse this mark. I mean, Chris Carter had 41 catches, 648 through the air, receiving yards, and 8 touchdowns. And it's realistic that stuff goes down tomorrow. Why? Because Jeremiah Smith is that good, because Will Howard helps him get better. And that combo together, number 18 and number 4, that's one that I don't think Nebraska is going to be able to stop. Thank you for making Locked On Buckeyes your first listen of the day. For your second listen, check out the Locked On Big Ten podcast. Craig Sheeman is a guy that puts the Big Ten first when everyone else overlooks it. Find Locked On Big Ten and Locked On Buckeyes on the YouTube and wherever you listen to podcasts. You can follow me on Twitter at jstevens07. Send every email to jstevens317@gmail.com. This has been Locked On Buckeyes on a Friday. Oh, one more thing. Totally forgot. Can't get up out of here without talking about my score prediction for tomorrow. Ohio State wins this game 42-10. 42-10, Ohio State wins this game. And I do think this is a game where you get 3 rushing touchdowns. Wouldn't be shocked if there was a defensive touchdown and Jeremiah Smith does his thing tomorrow. Defensive touchdown might not happen because, well, 3 on the ground, 3 in the air. The 3 go to number 4, and he breaks Carter's record. That might be what we're looking at tomorrow. Jeremiah Smith and the running backs. That might be the formula that Ohio State uses to take down the Cornhuskers tomorrow in the shoe. That's all we got for today. Score predictions done. It's the last graphic of the day. I got 2 words to say, and we up out of here, y'all. Go Bucks!